Hello, my name is Jasmine Woodard with NACE, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Synergy of Success, Alumni Mentoring, Career Development, and Academic Partnerships. We encourage you to actively participate in the chat and please post questions in the Q&A. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tricia Mulligan, Provost at Iona University, Jennifer Friery, Director of Career Development at Iona University, and David Nielsen, Director of Alumni Engagement. Take it away, David.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today, and we're very much looking forward to speaking with you all about this really important topic and some of the lessons we've learned over the years of having the Girls Go Further mentoring program at Iona University. So always good to start with what we're hoping we all get out of this session and our time together today. So our session goals, of course, we're hoping that the information we share about our experience with the Girls Go Further mentoring program will give you guys some strategies and maybe best practices for what you can implement at your own institutions, with your alumni associations, and partnership with faculty and staff at your campus, and in particular with your career development offices. We're going to talk a lot about how to effectively recruit both alumni and students in your programs and how to utilize partnerships across campus to help make sure that your mentoring programs are holistic for both the student experience, but also that you're leveraging all connections across campus to make the program a success in the short and in the long term. We hope that you'll walk away understanding how these interconnected elements within student affairs, academics, and alumni engagement and advancement can lead to a more comprehensive and effective support system for students and for our recent grads, and that you'll learn some tactics about implementing and sustaining these programs, like I said earlier, in the long run. So not only making sure that the program gets off to a smooth start, but then also I think, part of the challenge is how do you make sure that you maintain a successful program from year to year and in the long term. So we're going to talk about some tactics for implementing and sustaining the programs. And hopefully you'll walk away with some practical steps toward replicating these successes in your own campuses and institutions. So again, pleasure to be with you all today, and I'm going to hand it off to our wonderful Director of Career Development at Iona, Jennifer Friery.
Are you changing the slide, David?
It's showing as changed on my side. Do you not see it?
No. So hello, everyone. Addressing career expectations at Iona University likely mirrors challenges faced by many higher education institutions. Students often enter college with high career aspirations, but their expectations don't always align with the realities of the job market. Many lack an understanding of industry demands, required qualifications, and current trends, leaving them unprepared for the competitive landscape. Iona University, with its reputation for values-based education, must continuously demonstrate the return on investment on its programs. This includes showcasing alumni and student success stories, delivering career services metrics, and expanding career readiness initiatives that equip students with skills and insights needed to meet market demands and achieve their professional goals. Preparing students for the workforce while maintaining academic excellence has remained a high priority at our institution. This has been done by embedding career-focused initiatives into the curriculum. Similar to other institutions, Iona students have the opportunity to gain practical experience that bridge classroom knowledge with real-world applications through experiential learning, service learning, internships, research, and through the mentoring program. Colleges and universities need to respond to the evolving needs of students, faculty, and external stakeholders through targeted initiatives. As tuition and fees continue to rise, the pressure to demonstrate the value of a degree has intensified. Families and prospective students will continue to evaluate the return on investment, especially as students' loan debt highlights the financial commitment of higher education. What has our response been to these expectations? Iona's response is to emphasize cross-campus collaboration as key strategy for addressing this challenge. Just want to highlight that I, as the Director for Career Development, report into Division of Student Affairs. And so you will hear us throughout the presentation talk about the different reporting lines. So we emphasize cross-campus collaboration as the key strategy for addressing this challenge. By training together academic and administrative teams, we're able to provide students with career preparation and experiences to succeed in the job market. These efforts reflect a broader institutional commitment to equipping students with the practical skills, confidence, and resources necessary for post-graduation success. Cross-campus collaboration is vital to effectively supporting students as they explore and prepare for their careers after graduation. Over the past 5 years, this commitment has been championed by Provost Tricia Mulligan and institutional stakeholders, ensuring the mentoring program remains a cornerstone of the Iona experience and provides students with invaluable guidance from alumni and support from career development. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Mulligan.
Thanks, Jennifer. So Iona is probably a little bit different than some of your institutions. We are a small private Catholic institution located outside New York City in Westchester County. Our total student enrollment is about 4,000, about 3,300 of that, give or take, are undergraduate students, with another 500 plus graduate students. So we understand that our demographics are probably a little bit different than some of yours, but it allows us to really, I think, collaborate in a way that is pretty seamless on our campus. But I think what we've done is pretty replicable, to going back to David's initial points, for many of you that are in this space. In terms of the collaboration and sort of how we work together. So we're really very fortunate that we have offices on campus that are driven first and foremost by being student-centered and mission-focused. So every decision that's made and every kind of commitment that's made has those two features sort of as the lens through which we view everything else. And so if you're all starting from a common starting point, it makes collaboration pretty easy. But I think that's really important to kind of set up, is that having those conversations about who you are and what you wish to achieve and for whom is really sort of essential on the front end. And so we began this process with that in looking at our students who, half of whom are give or take, are first generation students. And so coming into college, as Jennifer referenced, with certain expectations about what might be possible and what might be likely for them upon graduation is really great. And we want to encourage their enthusiasm and excitement, but it's really incumbent upon us to provide them with the tools and the skills to be able to pursue those opportunities. And one of the things that we've noticed here at Iona, I'm sure is not uniquely Iona, is that our students are very successful in many ways in the classroom and co-curricular activities, securing internships, but they don't always have the skills that they need to navigate networking, as we sort of call it writ large. And so our cross collaboration came initially from identifying what some of those gaps are. When do students feel comfortable? When do they not feel comfortable? How do we make this less scary? How do we provide a structured environment with preparation and prompts for them to move into that space? And at the same time, looking at our mission is also to engage with our alumni on an ongoing basis. And, we're really very fortunate to have 40,000, plus alumni, many of whom live in the tri-state area where we're located. So geographically, they're in close proximity. But I think more importantly, many of whom have been asking for opportunities to give back or get involved at Iona. And so from those conversations, the academic side, the Office of the Provost, the career development folks in student affairs, Jennifer and her colleagues, and then David in the advancement and alumni engagement space, kind of approached this from our different perspectives. And we came up with a pretty cool model that David's going to get more into the details about later on in our conversation, that gave way to what we call the Gales Go Further mentoring program. And the Gales Go Further, so the Gale is our mascot. It's a leprechaun. He's named Killian. He's slightly on the menacing and creepy side, but I think that's a good thing for sports, I guess. And we went for the premise that we want all of our students to go further, right? And many of our alumni had assistance along the way how do we get them together? So so this collaboration, kind of, led to many further conversations, and then came to a sort of a white paper, I'll say, about how this might be possible. And with that, we understood pretty quickly that we would need to find some kind of a platform that would allow for connectivity among current students and among our alum. We needed to come up with a framework of what we kind of thought those mentoring relationships would be, which led us to kind of think about, well, do mentees know what it means to be mentored? Do mentors know how to do the mentoring? So we had a lot of conversation and preparation to that end. Other parts of that have to do with identifying a platform, co-creating curriculum, because us folks on the academic side are really good at creating course objectives and exciting and wonderful ways to engage students with academic material. We're not so well versed in those same sort of initiatives on the career side, and so Jennifer's team and David's team became really important in sort of shaping that. And creating what would eventually become a course for students to engage with. We help on the front end with helping to identify students, so working with our deans, our faculty, department chairs, different cohort groups on campus like athletics, our comprehensive assistance program, our honors program, to sort of invite students to say, hey, we've got this really good program, do you know, to get them sort of involved. And then by extension to work with those same folks and alumni engagement to identify mentors that we've worked with as students of maybe days of yore in some cases, but also alumni that are newly emerging. And so really all of us have a role to play in contributing to the student success. And different students need different things at different times. Networking, I think for most of us in our best moments is a scary notion, but we give opportunities that we've kind of figured out, allow them to practice in sort of a no stakes space, like getting to know their mentors and other events that come after. So we really do present this as a benefit that the university affords students before they even arrive on campus at the point of admissions, through their time here at Iona, and then as they move into becoming alum themselves, how they can remain connected and also work with other alum to continue their success. All right, so David, back to you.
Great. Thank you, Tricia, for that excellent context, and Jennifer too. So yeah, I mean, as Dr. Mulligan mentioned, the form that this eventually took was a formal 1-credit course. But of course, you don't have to go down that track, right? There were options, and a lot of consideration was given to how best entice students to participate in the program, how to keep them engaged throughout the whole semester with their mentor. And so ultimately where we landed, thanks to this collaboration with the academic side of our house and folks in career development and elsewhere in student affairs, was offering this 1-credit mentoring and career exploration course. So I don't want to gloss over that, because I think that's an important point. We are offering students academic credit for participation in this program. And there are mentoring programs that don't go that route, and that's fine. And to Tricia's point, different students need different things, and different universities and colleges will have different methods of making the program work for them. I think what we found for us was that there were a lot of benefits to offering the 1-credit course. There was another iteration where the course was a full academic year course. They got 1 credit in the fall, 1 credit in the spring, which worked really nicely. And you had the benefit of having the full academic year for mentors and mentees to kind of get to know each other over the course of about 6 months. We did ultimately pivot over the years to a 1-credit course that was offered once. So students participate for 1 semester, and then we run the program again with a new cohort of students again the following semester. So where we are now is offering this mentoring and career exploration course every semester, fall and spring. It's open to any undergraduate student at Iona in their sophomore, junior, or senior year. So we do have plans. Talk a little bit about this later in terms of plans for the future, but we recognize that this is not including our first year students as of right now, but it is open to all sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and any student in those class years can participate. So it is interesting to see, who ultimately ends up in the classroom, and it is usually, for those who are curious, mostly seniors, followed by a good amount of juniors, and then always 3 or 4 sophomores. Not surprising, most of the students who are coming to the end of their time at Iona are the ones who are focusing most on what comes after they graduate. But as of right now, we have about 50 students who participate every semester. So about 100 students per year will have taken this formal 1-credit course for the mentoring program. So in the classroom, we have formal instruction for about an hour every week. There are a couple of weeks throughout the semester where students have a break from formal instruction in the classroom because we'll give them time to, use that time where you would be in class to meet with your mentor, or this week, instead of coming to class, you're going to go to the career fair, that sort of thing. So, but for the most part, we meet every single week for an hour across 2 sections. And we've made sure, Jennifer and I and Trisha over the years have worked closely to make sure that there are career development workshops throughout the course, and that those career development workshops are offered by our career development experts, right? So it's important to us that we make sure that those who are actually facilitating the workshops in this program are really the true trusted experts on our campus for their particular area of expertise. So while I could give my own kind of insights or what I think works best, for resumes formatting or how to approach a cover letter, we don't go that route. We make sure that career development is responsible for really guiding the students for that on our campus. So career development should be represented in the program, teaching students about how to succeed, how to write effective resumes and professional cover letters and all that sort of thing. So the in-classroom experience, I did cover, and the instructor for the course, who has since taken over it, will cover areas that they're experts in. Communication with their mentor, for example. So I'm working in the alumni and advancement side of things. So the instructor for the course usually falls from the alumni office, and the instructor can certainly talk to students about, here are some communication tips about having an effective relationship with your alumni mentor. But if a topic relates to career development, we're making sure career development is leading that discussion. And I'll talk a little bit about that in more detail in a minute. And then outside of the classroom, the students are expected to meet with their mentor a minimum of 3 times a semester. Most of them meet with their mentor more than that. But the logic was, we want to make it enticing for mentors to become involved in the program. So we're not going to, scare away potential strong mentors by telling them they have to meet with their student every single week, because that could be a little bit daunting for some of the mentors who are still, balancing family life and their work and their 9-to-5 job. So students are expected to meet with their mentor a minimum of 3 times a semester. And then they write a reflection after each conversation with their mentor as well. But really, for the mentors, it's important for us to make sure that we're setting them up for success by letting them know what we mean when we say mentor, right? So been very intentional over the years in making sure, and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail in a few slides, so that the mentors go through a mentor orientation. So they attend a virtual mentor orientation for about an hour every semester. We offer the multiple days and times for these orientations so that we can get as many of the mentors to participate as possible. And we welcome returning mentors who have done this a few times and brand new mentors. And the nice thing about that is the alumni who participate in those orientations get to meet new people. I've been in many mentor orientations where I'll hear an alum say, "Oh, you used to, you were my sister's roommate back in '85," or, that sort of thing. So they end up becoming a cohort of their own, which for our work in alumni engagement is always nice to see. But we want the mentors to focus on career support and advice. As Dr. Mulligan mentioned earlier, helping students gain confidence and comfortability with networking, and that could be a one-on-one relationship with their mentor. That's a form of networking. And it goes to be coming to a reception where they're expected to kind of walk around the room with food and drink. The integration of the academic instruction and the career preparation. So like, as mentioned, the program itself is a formal 1-credit class. So we do expect students to participate in class, complete course assignments, lots of reflection writing, that sort of thing. And then key support from leadership to make mentoring a cornerstone of the Alumni experience. We'll talk about this more in a second too, but really we want to make sure that every stakeholder is involved in managing the program and helping us think strategically about how the program develops over time. So we have an advisory board for Gales Go Further, and that advisory board has a chair and a vice chair. It's comprised of alumni, students, we have student representatives, faculty, and staff. And we try to make sure that we have faculty from each of the schools, and then a good diversity of departments represented from faculty on the advisory board as well. And really the conversations are so interesting because the advisory board is so diverse in terms of having this mosh podge of students and alumni and faculty and staff. So you end up having really awesome conversations about things that, if it was just Jennifer and I, or Jennifer and Trisha and I putting our heads together, we might not necessarily think about all the different ways this program could evolve over time. But because we have everybody from the advising center to, the president of our alumni board to the students who are involved in the class on this advisory board, the conversations really open up and can go in exciting directions. So that's been a really integral part of the program. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer just to talk a little bit more detail about what I had referenced earlier regarding making sure that career development is really leaned on in terms of offering that career development support in the classroom for the program.
Yeah, so piggybacking on what David had shared earlier, career development has been an integral part of the mentoring class curriculum each semester. The tailored presentations and assignments establish career development as the experts in career readiness, equipping students with the essential skills and knowledge needed to excel in their professional journey. Career topics are presented by career development staff, typically myself or a member of my team, throughout the course, focusing on showcasing mentoring experiences on their resume, expanding their professional network through LinkedIn, effectively discussing the mentoring during interviews. Additionally, career development collaborates with the alumni office to connect students with professionals in networking settings, such as attending the mentoring reception. You can actually see me here working with the students to, reinforce the students engaging with the mentors and other students at the reception. We offer specialized workshops and seminars to help students leverage their mentoring experience in the job interview and networking events, teaching them how to position these experiences as demonstrations of leadership and skill development. We require the career-focused assignments, such as submitting resume and cover letter for review in the one credit course to ensure that the career development delivers personalized and comprehensive feedback to all mentees. Now, that is, of course, extremely labor intensive, and we are looking at platforms to help us manage that process. Career development is also integral in the initial mentor training. So a question was asked, how are we prepping the mentors for the experience in leading the mentees? Career development participates in the mentoring training as well as the alumni office. From career development side, we want to make sure that the mentors know what we do, what services we offer, what workshops are offered throughout the semester. And so they're referring their mentees to utilize our services, and they can use their time to focus on providing more targeted, informed guidance, address industry-specific questions, and help mentees navigate the unique nuances of a particular career, and leave the sort of career readiness initiatives to career development office. Why do we serve on the why do we continue to support and be on the advisory board? Is to strengthen the connection with the alumni networking while focusing on a shared goal of student success. It also provides the opportunity to gather valuable feedback and recommendations from the mentors, mentee members, and collaborate on strategies to expand and improve the program in future semesters. One way we've been able to do that is by career developments in the classroom throughout campus in a number of different programs. We reinforce the mentoring program in all of our presentations that we do. So that's just another area of where career development supports the program and the promotion of the program. Back to David.
So yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Maybe, this might vary for everybody on the call. I'm sure it does, but I'm a big why before how person, right? So with a project like this, especially, as we think about how the program evolves over time, it can get difficult to remember, why did we start this and what are we trying to do here? So one of the first things, I think we would all recommend on our end in terms of, best practices for successful alumni mentoring programs is giving some clarity of the purpose of your program, right? So, everyone here who's on this call has obviously found that there's some value in something like this, or otherwise you probably wouldn't be here. But the purpose and the student demographic at each of our institutions is different, right? So it's going to look different for every institution. So I think really coming up with, the why and the how for your institution and making sure that there's buy-in from all of the stakeholders, from students to alumni, faculty, and staff, on what the mission of your particular program is. And if you're successful, in the long term at achieving that mission over time, what's the vision long term? So for us, I tried really hard to make sure everybody felt like they had a say and a stake in developing a mission for the program, and that it was short and easy to remember and recite. So our mission has remained the same the last 3 years, and it is to enable all Gales to achieve personal and career success through supportive mentoring and networking opportunities. So short, simple, tells people what it is that we're trying to do here, and easy enough, I think, to recite offhand. And then the vision for the long term is to help all Gales realize their full potential both during and after their years of study at Iona. So why is that the vision and not the mission? But we do a little bit of this right now, but I think the vision for the long term was, hey, this program works really well with our undergraduate students. Wouldn't it be great in an ideal world if in the long term we could do something like this for Gales who have also graduated, for our alumni, right? So we've talked a little bit about doing something like this for young alumni. Do we have older alumni who are more seasoned in their career, maybe even retired and had a really successful career, mentoring young alumni, graduates of the last decade? So our vision in the long term is to open this up and help Gales realize their full potential, not only during their time at Iona, but even after their years of study at the institution. So just like to start with that and say, getting this language concise and making sure there's buy-in from the community is a really important part of, laying the groundwork for the program. And the objectives or the goals, similar thing here, and these goals too, none of these exist in a vacuum, right? So if we say these are the objectives for the program, these objectives should be in the course syllabus for the class, which they are in fact. And then those objectives which are on the syllabus should be related to the survey that students are completing at the end of their experience in the program, so we can actually measure whether or not we're doing a good job in achieving these objectives. So all of these things are part of laying the groundwork and making sure that the language isn't just flowery language that lives on a document somewhere, but that it's actually part of our day-to-day operations and helping us see continuous improvement and hold ourselves accountable for whether or not we're actually doing what we set out to do with the program. So the objectives are to contribute to the students' sense of belonging at Iona, improve mentees' sense of career preparedness, of course, create a strong and supportive culture toward the mentees. So a student participates in this program, they're getting support not only in the traditional sense from an instructor in the classroom, but they're getting all of these guest speakers from throughout campus, like Jennifer and her staff, and alumni guest speakers. And then, of course, they also have their alumni mentors. So they should feel at the end of the program that they've got a support culture here at Iona that extends just beyond their in-classroom experience. Transfer key knowledge from mentors to mentees, increase alumni engagement through alumni student networking and mentoring, and create avenues that ease alumni to alumni networking opportunities. So, the other side of this, which we're not going to focus on too much for the purposes of this conversation, but we did develop a partnership with People Grove to power our Gales Connect platform, which does the mentor-mentee matching for the program. And there are other alumni to alumni networking opportunities that platform allows us to utilize as well outside of the formal undergraduate mentoring program. So in addition to getting some clarity about the language, the mission, vision, and goals of the program, another, I think, important part of laying the groundwork is recruiting, of course, and preparing the mentors, right? So this is one of the biggest responsibilities for our office in the alumni and advancement area, is to attract the right mentors to the program and then prepare those mentors to have a successful relationship with their students. So one of the first things to consider is how to attract alumni to serve as mentors. So I work in the Office of Alumni Engagement. That's in our Division of Advancement and External Affairs. And we have a lot of major gift officers who are having great meetings and visits all over the country with really impressive alumni who have gone on to do incredible things since they graduated from Iona, and they're looking for ways to pay it forward to the next generation. So we make sure that when we're having those conversations with some of our more engaged alumni, that we're making sure that the mentoring program is constantly plugged. And so, you might wonder, when do we recruit? Is there a time where applications are open and alumni apply? And the answer is no. It's really, we're constantly recruiting. So if we have a good conversation with an alum, we add them to the program in real time. And then the next time we do the mentor-mentee matching process, they're in the pool and hopefully they get matched with the student. And if they don't get matched with the student, we tell them, here are some other great ways to stay connected with Iona this semester, and hopefully you'll have a positive match with the student next semester. So we're really constantly recruiting for the program, and we make sure that, not only alumni engagement, but all of those who work in our major gift side of things are mentioning the program when they meet with their potential donors. And the same is true with our campus partners. We make sure that admissions knows that those who are giving tours of the campus can share with students and prospective students and their parents that this mentoring program is unique and something to consider when making a decision about coming to Iona. So attracting alumni to serve as mentors has been fairly easy. Most of our alumni say yes, they're interested in paying it forward in this really unique and meaningful way. And most of the time they come back. So we have about 100 mentors in the program, and that has been consistent over time and continues to grow. Every once in a while, someone will take a break for a semester and come back just because life has gotten busy for them. But for the most part, if you attract the right people to the program, they will oftentimes stay in the program. And then in terms of ensuring a meaningful and productive mentorship relationship, one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that they understand what it is we're asking them to do, right? So that one of the first things, and I'll share this in a slide in a few moments, that they get is a mentor guide. And the mentor guide goes over that mission I just shared, the vision I just shared, the objectives I just shared. They get a nice welcome letter in the mentor guide from our president, Dr. Carey. We share resources, so they'll have contact information for staff across campus, and we really give them a comprehensive description of what we mean when we say mentoring at Iona and what we expect of them as mentors. And that ties into things like mentor-mentee communication. So one of the things we tell them is we expect the students to really drive the relationship. So no mentor should feel that they need to kind of hunt down their student because they haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks. You really tell the students that this mentor is volunteering their time to serve as a resource to you. So it's your responsibility to drive that relationship and make sure you're kind of utilizing that resource to the fullest. And then, as I mentioned, the mentor orientation, and Jennifer alluded to this earlier as well. Jennifer comes to the mentor orientations. We make sure that the mentors understand that the students are participating in a formal course. We go over with the mentors what we teach in that class. We share the syllabus. We're very transparent with the mentors so that the mentors know what it is that we're covering in the classroom, and they can kind of tie that content into their discussions with their mentee one-on-one. And then, Jennifer comes in and talks about what she does in career development, and offers some kind of tips for how to navigate conversations with the mentees about their careers. So really making sure from everybody from, admissions to our major gift officers to faculty and staff are involved in helping recruit the students and the mentors. And then, just in terms more specifically in preparing the students, really the thing we ask every single semester, it's always good to know, what are the students, how do the students hear about the program? Most of the time it's peer-to-peer, word of mouth, so we live in a really digital age, and most of the time the students don't tell me they heard it from an email or a flyer. It's usually my friend told me I should participate and they had a good experience, or my professor, recommended that I do this. So take that for what you will, but I do think the peer-to-peer word of mouth recruitment goes a long way. Making sure the expectations are really clear, the branding is precise. So I mentioned this earlier, but who, what, where, and how. So what is Gales Go Further? How do you participate? What are your options for getting involved? And then providing resources to support mentor-mentee communication, which I'll dive into in a little bit more detail in a second. So this is just an example of one of the traditional flyers that we shared. So traditional flyers are great. We send a lot of emails out. We use a lot of social media. But if you can get a nice big poster, posted in the residence halls or the dining hall or what have you, that can go a long way too. So, but you'll see even in this, one of the first things is what is Gales Go Further, right? So we don't want to just advertise it and say sign up today, and the student is looking at this like, I don't know what this is. So we always include a little bit of what the program is, what is it seeking to do, and then what your options are. You can do flash mentoring, where you just you create a profile on Gales Connect and reach out to alumni in your own time, or you can register for the formal 1-credit class, or you can attend ad hoc workshops and programs offered by Career Development. So this is a traditional flyer we've used the last few years, but you could see even here we try to take into account the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So always keeping the mission and vision kind of at the heart of what we're doing in the program. And then this is like a digital TV image that we use to advertise the program across campus. So again, this is not as detailed because you're only working with so much space, but what are we trying to do here? Connect students with alumni today. Why? To get them career ready for tomorrow. So focusing on what it is that the program is trying to do and infusing that mission and our goals into our advertising. So we have established the advisory board. I know Jennifer and Tricia both mentioned this earlier, to help in designing and implementing and overseeing the program in the long run. So they provide thought leadership and feedback on the program. They serve as a sounding board. So if we're considering a new, a way to expand the program, we'll bring it to the advisory board and kind of get their input. They help establish targets and review ongoing performance metrics. So we'll say we have this many students registered. How do we increase that number over time? Or we have this many users on Gales Connect. How do we double that? So they'll give us tips and feedback on how to improve in that way. They also assist with special events and projects from year to year. So most of the advisory board does come out to the event that we host for the mentoring program each semester. And we've been really, trying to be intentional, like I said earlier, in making sure that we have a good balance of faculty from every school, from each department, if we can, staff from various departments in student affairs and elsewhere, senior leadership, alumni, of course, and then we have students who are also represented on the board. All right, I'm keeping an eye on the time, so I'm going to try to move through these next ones a little bit more quickly. So the mentor-mentee meeting prompts, we don't just send the students into the meeting with their mentor and say, good luck. We hope that you guys have some meaningful conversations. We give them some questions that we think could be helpful to guide the conversation. They can use those questions as a resource, but they're not required to. The mentee compendium is something we gave the students. It was a printed booklet to help them keep track of their notes in each of the workshops for the course and have something tangible to kind of take with them at the end of the experience. And then the mentor guide I mentioned earlier, so I won't go into that in too much detail, but we sent a printed mentor guide to all the mentors, which is a nice touch point for the alumni. And it gives the alum, the understanding and the impression that, this is an organized and well-structured program, and we have all the information you need here in this guide. So just a quick picture of what the mentee compendium looked like. The program does also have its own logo, so I think that helps. And then the mentoring and career exploration course has mentor-mentee meeting prompts. So every single meeting had some questions that we gave to the students that they can bring to their conversation with their mentor, in addition to reflection questions to consider in the assignment that they were required to post a reflection on after each meeting with their alumni mentor. Just a quick image of the mentor guide for reference. And then the student ambassadors, we do have a small group, usually somewhere between 5 to 8 students in the Gales Go Further student ambassadors. Very casual. They meet once a month with staff from our office, and they help provide feedback. They help strategize on program enhancement. We'll ask them, what's the best way to advertise and get the word out to students. They'll talk to their peers and help, advertise and recruit. And this is kind of maybe this goes without saying, but I think asking the students what they think in a setting in which they're comfortable around their peers is really important. So, we talk a lot in the advisory board. There's usually 1 or 2 student reps, but it can be intimidating for them to kind of butt in and give their feedback on the program when there's a bunch of other faculty, staff, and alumni on the call. So I have found it helpful to have kind of an offline discussion with a handful of students who have participated in the program to kind of get their input. And ask them directly, we hear that students really love X, Y, and Z. Is that true? And then they might say, no, that's totally off base. Or yeah, that's exactly right. So we have found that to also be a really helpful sounding board. We do an event once a semester. Mentors and mentees have an opportunity to connect over a cocktail hour. We try to have representation from all of campus there. Again, making sure that faculty are included, that we have guest speakers. We have members of the board of trustees, members of the alumni board, members of cabinet, so that students really get the impression, and our alumni get the impression too, that this truly is a cornerstone of the Iona experience. Testimonials and content. So advertising the program and then telling the story. So we have a model in the alumni engagement office where we try to have a 3-pronged approach to our engagement. So the 3 prongs are service to alma mater, service in terms of something like this, the mentoring program, engaging through affinities, and then telling the story, right? So if we do all this work, but then we really don't tell the story to the wider community, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So getting strong testimonial content from students and sharing that on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you can. These are just some examples of a student testimonial and an alumni testimonial. Doing, we've done full length stories. So this is a recent example of a student and his mentor. We did a full story on their mentorship and partnership, and posted that to our newsroom and then reposted it to our LinkedIn. And after every event too, right? So the events come and go, but it's always important to highlight, that this continues to be a huge part of our work here at Iona. So sharing that story with the wider community is really key. This is another story that we did recently in the newsroom. I always liked this one because the student had said that after getting their full-time employment letter, after their internship going to full-time, after their mother, their mentor was the first person they shared the news with. So I always loved that story. I think that's a good one. In terms of sustaining and supporting the program over the long term, we've talked about, we launched an MBA mentoring program recently, in a pilot phase, kind of modeled after the undergraduate mentoring program. Just a couple things to think about if you're in a position where you want to kind of propose this sort of a program at your institution, thinking about how you can demonstrate return on investment, for the students, but also the institution, and then combination of qualitative and quantitative data to support. So is there data that demonstrates, from the students that this is a worthwhile venture, and the same thing with the alumni. And then in terms of just plans for the future, I mentioned this earlier, but we had thought about doing a young alumni mentoring program. So we're gonna work through those details. Hopefully this summer, we'll see if we can get that launched at some point next academic year. And then a podcast. So we thought, can we capture some of these, going back to telling the story, can we capture some of these really meaningful mentor-mentee relationships and then interview the mentor and mentee in a podcast format, and share that with the wider community. So just another possible touch point for the future. We do an assessment at the end of every semester. We ask the students, what their experience has been like, and that those again all relate to the objectives that I shared at the start. I'm not going to go through all of those, but by and large, we have found that students have a really positive experience in the program. So an example of that, they felt that they've learned the value and importance of networking in the job preparation process. Most of them agree or strongly agree with that. Do they feel like they got key knowledge from their mentor? That's a really important question, right? So most of them typically feel that they've walked away from their relationship with their mentor having received some key knowledge. Do they feel that participating in the program has made them feel more supported in their career preparation journey? You can see overwhelmingly that they did. And then based on their experience and their relationship with their mentor, how likely are students to recommend this to a peer? And so again, word of mouth is one of the most important ways to get the word out about the program. So the answer to this question is really important to us. And most students, fortunately, have indicated that they would, in fact, recommend participation to a peer. So I blew through that information fairly quickly because I wanted to keep us on time. But hopefully, in terms of key takeaways, we've shared some useful strategies for recruiting and sustaining the alumni mentors and the students as well. Hopefully, we've also demonstrated the value of the cross collaboration. As Jennifer and Dr. Mulligan both mentioned, this was a campus-wide effort. Everyone from the provost office and the faculty involved in every area of academics to career development to advancement and alumni engagement were involved in launching and sustaining this program, and then implementing similar mentoring programs at your own institutions. Hopefully some of the tangible visual examples of the mentor guide, the mentee compendium, visuals of how to tell that story, the success stories are offer some actionable steps for you all to bring to your institutions. And then just hopefully we gave some final thoughts on the importance of preparing students for successful careers through mentoring programs like this one. So that was a lot of talking from me. I don't know, Jennifer and Tricia, do you have anything that you want to add? Did I miss anything?
No, thank you. Got it all. Perfect.
Okay, great. So that's the end of our portion. Are there any questions? Or I think there were some questions that came in, right?
There are questions, David, in the Q&A. I've been trying to take ones where I can easily type in. There are still some pending.
Got it.
So
I mean, I see a question.
The first
That
question, do students opt into the course, or it is required students do opt into the course?
I'm glad somebody asked that because that was one of my main points and I didn't hit it. So it's open to all, but required of none. That's how I like to think of it. So students are not required to participate.
So I think, David, as I'm looking through these questions too, I think you touched on a lot of the nuts and bolts sorts of things. I think one of the questions that maybe we could talk a little bit more about that's coming up is how we match the mentees and the mentors, right? What does that look like? So I'll take this the broad level, and you can get into the nitty gritty, the two of you. But part of how we use our platform is to get sort of questionnaires out there for folks in terms of what are the most important goals for the students. Do they really want to be matched in someone in particular academic discipline or an industry, et cetera, what their interests outside of school are, and then similarly for the mentors. And then there's a magic algorithm that runs, and that's great, but we also take a human look at those matches to really kind of delve in and see how that works at kind of at a high level. But David, beyond that, you want to explain a little bit further?
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, there are companies that offer, matching, mentor matching, and we went with People Grove. We did do a fair bit of research. I know at the start, this is a little bit before my time at the program, but we did go with People Grove, and our local version of that is called Gales Connect. So People Grove has a really sophisticated algorithm that does most of the matching, mentor-mentee matching for you. But you, of course, as the administrator, can go in and change the weight of things. So you can tell the system, I want you to student major and mentor major is highly important in the matching process, but their hobbies and interests is only somewhat important, and location is not important at all. So you can kind of talk to the system a little bit about what parameters you want to put in place for the matching process. But we do use People Grove, which again, the local version we call Gales Connect, to run the matching process. And again, we don't guarantee that the mentors will get matched every semester. We usually have about 50 students per semester, but 100 mentors in the pool, which is intentional. You want to give the site as many options to sort through and trying to find a strong match for each student so that the matches are strong and not one to one. If we have 50 mentors in the pool and 50 students, and we just kind of crossed our fingers hoping that the 50 align with the 50, we probably wouldn't have very strong matches. So we try to find gaps at the end of every semester of, we don't have a lot of criminal justice alumni in the pool, so we should continue our work to try and find some good mentors in the criminal justice space. So we do try and pull the list at the end of every semester to kind of see where some of the gaps are and fill those in.
So to paraphrase back, I guess students have some agency as they're filling out these forms, but there are parameters. We have had the rare occasion where a match doesn't work out, either the and or both the mentor or mentee, and we have been able to rematch them. So there is some troubleshooting, minimal, that happens, but it does exist. Percentage of student body, not a huge percentage, to be honest. I mean, if we're talking, David, what was it, 50 or 60 a semester, by and large. I think the really great part, though, even though we don't have a target in mind, honestly, we know what our capacity is, and we've been able to recruit pretty consistently the same numbers of students. I think we're more interested in the quality of the student experience than the number of the students that are engaging.
One of the questions is, how long do the mentoring relationships last? Sometimes the relationship lasts for the length of the semester, and sometimes they continue on. So we've heard from mentors that they've carried on relationships with their mentees, even after the 1-credit course.
Yeah, I think the question about teaching students to fish, that's an interesting observation. And I think where we started from is, what do our students need, and where are they, where do they feel more confident, and where do they need some additional support? And I think what became very clear very quickly is that students were not comfortable reaching out, sort of on their own without parameters, to alum. Ideally, you would get to the point when they participate in this program that, students become much more comfortable, and will be willing to approach folks for jobs, for internships, other mentors down the road in other capacities. but that's how we sort of came to that decision. And that may not be the best fit for every institution, depending on your student body. So the formal mentoring relationships right now are a semester. The really cool thing about this is that those relationships exist long after the formal conclusion of the program. So we'll hear stories, the one David shared, the student testimonial, that, beyond the point that a student was in the program, their mentors are still present in their lives. And anecdotally, that seems to be a good number. We don't know exactly. That's probably something we're going to look at in the future in terms of sort of measurement. But there are some really great, robust relationships that last beyond the purview of the program. Right. David, mentoring happening in person.
So yeah, we tell the mentors that they can participate in the program virtually or in person. Most of them will meet with their student at least once throughout the semester in person. So some of them will do that more than others. Some of them will invite their student to lunch nearby campus or come to camp. I've been walking across campus and just happen upon a mentor and a student hanging outside the business school drinking coffee. So some of them are more local and able to do that pretty conveniently. Others, we have one of the mentors, the testimonial I shared earlier, actually, from the student who had a really wonderful experience with their mentor. They never met in person. So we try not to limit that when assigning students to their mentors. That mentors in Indiana and students local to New Rochelle, and they had a wonderful experience. So we do give mentors the option.
Staff bandwidth, I'll take this one. So as may be the case in many of your institutions, in none of our cases is this 50 or 100% of our jobs. It is a labor of love that we do because it's important, and we believe in the success of the program. But truth be told, I mean, we do, I'm the provost, Jennifer's the senior director of the Career Center, David is senior director of advancement. As you can imagine, there are a few other items under our list of to-dos. But that said, I think, if you're very intentional about the time you devote and the way you're approaching it, having the stakeholder conversations at the front end about how we, the how, why, when questions David were asking, it actually makes the implementation far easier, at least in my opinion. And it also creates space. So I know, once a month or once every 6 weeks, I've got an event or a board meeting coming up, it's kind of baked into the day. But no, we don't have any individuals that this is their only thing.
I see this question came up a couple of times about identifying inappropriate behavior. So that did come up, I think, within my first year here. There was this question of, should we have something like a code of conduct? So we did ultimately post a code of conduct to our Gales Connect site, and we include that in our mentor orientation so that we're very clear with the mentors on, you want to be personable, but you also need to keep it professional. So we make sure that the students are, if there's a concern on the student side of thing, they're reporting that to the instructor for the course, which the instructor for the course is really the contact for the main contact for the students in the program. So it hardly ever comes up. In the one instance in which it came up in my time here, it was more about the fact that the mentor was, trying to guide the student toward a particular profession, and the student was like, but I told him, a couple times that I wasn't really interested in that profession. I would say that's probably the closest we've ever come to there being an issue there. But I helped the student and the mentor kind of navigate that discussion. So. But yes, we do have a code of conduct, and we do make that, we do post that on our Gales Connect site, and we do share at the mentor orientation. Do we hit everything? I feel like we answered all the.
We did.
One of the questions that came up in, I think, the chat was, do we limit it to 50 students? And we do not limit it to 50 students. I guess, any last minute questions?
How long have we used People Grove? I think this is going into our 4th year.
Yep.
And there is an implementation, as there is with any software. So, and you have good support and have some leeway in how you craft the questions and what gets reviewed. I'll say that. All right, really good questions.
Yeah.
All right, any final?
Oh, really quick, the People Grove question that came in, I think Lauren just sent this. The matching algorithm is great in my experience. That's a huge benefit to having that site. Matching it helps a great deal in making sure that you're getting the best possible matches for students. And yes, we do require students and mentors to create an account in People Grove to participate.
All right. Any last questions before we wrap up, I guess?
Thank you, everyone who attended today and listened to our program, the information.
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you to
all.
Jasmine and Nace for making it possible.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much to our presenters and for all of our attendees. On behalf of NACE, I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.